You're listening to the True North Success Podcast. Real stories of personal, professional, and financial wins from Alberta's best. With your hosts, Gary Ma and Amy Kim.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today, my special guest is Daniel McMillan. He's a registered psychologist and the founding director of Assured Psychology, a premier psychological services firm based in Calgary, Alberta. Daniel specializes in treating clinical mental health issues, trauma, and relationship challenges. His career spans significant roles in both public and private sectors, including many years with Alberta Health Services. Beyond clinical practice, Daniel is a dedicated business leader and innovator who develops corporate mental health programs designed to foster resilient workplaces. He advocates for an attachment-based, trauma-informed approach that prioritizes compassionate, human-to-human contact. Outside of his professional endeavors, he is an avid outdoorsman who values time with his family. It is my pleasure to have Daniel McMillan on the show today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for having me, and that was a very generous introduction. Thank you.
So, Daniel, I gave a quick overview of your success, but can you fill in the details of what you do, who you serve, and how long you've been doing this for?
Sure. And I'll try not to ramble on this. I've been doing this for 20 years, but I like to say that I was very lucky in that my start happened much earlier than that. I think a lot of our families train us in our careers, and I was fortunate enough to have a really humanistic position as a father, and he would take me on his rounds in the hospital and to see his patients. So talking to people and helping them was sort of a skill that I learned early on. And been doing this 20 years, started with nonprofit, moved into the public sector for many years, and then built what's Assured Psychology now, which is a clinical practice of 10 clinicians at Calgary. We have our Calgary-based clinic, and then we also offer on-site counseling, on-site mental health services for our corporate arm, including flying people into northern sites in Alberta. And one thing I'm particularly proud of is the impact of our company. So for every person we see, for every session we hold, we donate. We were donating one meal to the drop-in center, and now we plant a tree. So we've donated over 20,000 meals, and we've planted over 5,000 trees to date in the last few years. So, so I'm happy to be here and talk about anything that's relevant.
Nice. What was really your driving force to become a registered psychologist?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to do this. In my high school yearbook, it says that when they ask you what are you going to be, it says psychologist. Okay. So I just always wanted to help people. My personal belief is that you can leave the world better or you can leave the world worse, and I wanted to leave the world better. Mm-hmm. And my skill sets seem to align with this field. My father always kind of coached us away from medicine because of some of the systemic problems with it, and this is what felt right for me. So I knew since I was about 15 or 16, I'd be a psychologist.
Okay. So like it was kind of from your family background. It sounds like your father was a doctor and he was helping patients and then you saw that an opportunity through a psychological need to help others. Yeah,
I've always found human beings really interesting. And we're far more beyond our biology or simplistic biology. I mean, no one can truly explain consciousness, for example. So the human experience has always fascinated me. And much of my career, I feel really grateful for, because it's really, each day I am impacted by the work I do. And then I go home and I get to be touched and a little bit wiser, a little bit better of a father, a little bit better of a husband, a little bit more insightful myself just by doing my job. And so the human experience has always been fascinating to me. In university, any psychology courses, once I'd maximize those out, I would take sociology or religion or anything about the human experience, because there's something fascinating in that I think is forever. It's forever teaching me how to be as a human being myself.
Right. So what kind of sets you apart from the competition? Like what comes easy to you that others might find challenging?
I mean, it's a hard question to answer because there's a lot of phenomenal people out there, and I don't
Yeah.
pretend to be the only or the most. I'm just have had a little bit of success. I think one thing that comes naturally to me is um, knowing what people need or want.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always made me really good with my job because I can naturally get a sense of what would help them. And then I didn't know if that would leverage into the business world, but it does. That's that sort of sense of for customers, for clients, for staff, um, what actually just makes sense on an intuitive level and works for people. And so that's just been sort of the guiding force of my practice and then the business.
Right. What kind of tips or suggestions would you give someone who wants to be more successful?
Yeah, I think I'm still learning how to be a business person. I like most people in healthcare, you get really trained in how to be a healthcare provider, and then you move into the world of business, and you
Right.
have to learn all over again. So I feel like I've been giving myself an MBA in the last few years with all the books I read and the courses I take. Um, and one of the things I've learned is that there's many paths to success, and you sort of have to find what works for you.
Right.
For me, particularly in this industry, it's to always be learning and trying to figure out why you don't want to do the things you don't want to do, and then tackle that as a learning. So, marketing, most healthcare providers hate marketing. I was no different. And having to really get my head around the value of marketing, how to optimize marketing, how to be teaching myself how to be a good marketer is one example of that. So, I
Right.
think the best thing you can do is continue to learn, read books every day, and to try to learn about the things that you want to learn because you're bad at.
Right. Yeah, so like it sounds like just growing, continuously growing and learning and just being open to different opportunities, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. And I think not expecting, I think one of the great fallacies that gets in the way of success is thinking that someone else can do it better and is better at this than you, so you shouldn't do it.
Hmm.
The world's full of a lot of successful C and B students,
Hmm.
in which A plus students work for, because taking the risk, teaching yourself as you go, building the capacity is an incredible gift in business.
Right. Yeah, so like as a healthcare professional, you've had to learn the business side, which they
Hmm.
probably don't teach in the
Never.
healthcare field.
No, not one class. Yeah. It
Right.
was it's a painful journey, truthfully. I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, but I mean, through those mistakes, you've had to learn. So, what was one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in your career, and how were you able to turn that into a positive?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is the one you just sort of named, which is training yourself that being a good clinician, being a good
Hmm.
practitioner, isn't enough to run a good business. I
Right.
think most practitioners, when they're envisioning leaving healthcare towards doing this as a business, think that if I'm just really good at this, that should transfer and that should be enough.
Right.
But I mean, everyone in the business world will look at that and kind of eye roll. But that's truly when you spend all day, every day doing your skill,
Yeah.
believing that your skill is enough. It's needed, but there's I think I think facing that head on and really trying to educate yourself on all the things that are additional to that to be successful. I think that's one of the biggest regrets I had was waiting too long to do that.
Okay. So, did you have mentors or other people helping you through, the business side?
Yeah. Not really, to be honest. I've been, especially in the early years, I was really looking for that. And I did have people, I felt like in each topic, I could find someone and kind of beam onto them and gain some knowledge as best I
Hmm.
could. I did not have one particular mentor or two that kind of held my hand through it, which was very made it a lot slower. I think one of the
Hmm.
things on the side I've started is a separate business called developyourpractice.com, in which I walk um, practitioners through how to develop their practice and group owners how to build into successful seven figure and beyond practices because I didn't have it. So I'm trying to sort
Oh,
of pass
okay.
that forward to people.
So you've actually developed sort of a system for other practitioners to gain that business side.
Yeah, one of my learnings was around the value of systems
Yeah.
because as a clinician, it's not where my skill set lies. And so I always have to painfully force myself to systemize things.
Right.
Um, so yes, I have painfully developed some systems, but I believe a lot in the power of human contact in mentorship.
Hmm.
As a psychologist, obviously that's an important part. And so part of it is bringing that in these one-on-one relationships where myself or partnered with someone else, we pair people with someone for that direct mentorship to help them grow. So that's aside from Assured Psychology, which is the clinic that I own and run. Um, but
Yeah.
it's sort of one thing that I was missing that I've been trying to pass forward.
Yeah, I mean I mean that's a huge challenge. Like when you look back, you're going through this, you're a psychologist, helping people, but the business side isn't there yet, and then you're struggling through that for many years, and then you saw the opportunity to help others as well
Mm-hmm.
by creating these systems and sharing that with with other people. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I found I was already getting a lot of those calls. So
Yeah.
after about the 20th hour of doing it, I thought, oh, maybe I should actually start charging for this and then
Right.
develop into some. So yeah.
Oh, very, 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 very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like things are going really well for you and your business. As a busy healthcare professional, a lot of time is spent running the active business. When looking towards the future, you don't want to have to be working so hard. And some of the ways, you look at creating income and profits from outside of actively working, which might be maybe investing in stocks, bonds, crypto, or using a financial planner. What are your thoughts about ways of creating income outside of your active work business?
Yeah, I mean that's always kind of the question, for me is like as the business grows, how do I leverage the profits of the business into a new something else that can then also pay
Hmm.
dividends that isn't
Hmm.
directly the business? And then how do I take those profits from the second thing and continue to do that so that I see it as like a stepping process. I was fortunate enough a few years ago to have an offer to purchase that we declined, but it made me start to look at, oh crap, what do I do? How do I plan for retirement? Um, what do I
Hmm.
do to manage finances? And it really made me have to start to bring in and structure the companies in such a way that are clean in the event of a sale one day, that are tax wise, and then in that structure, how you can leverage and move profits into secondary sources of income. So my partner and I own a few rental suites, including some short-term Airbnb and Canmore.
Hmm.
Um, the obvious investments of stocks and investing in the market. I was lucky enough to have found a really wise financial advisor. Interestingly, all the books I read said find a flat fee advisor. So I looked around for one. And the best financial advice I've ever gotten was from this flat fee advisor. He's incredible. So that was years ago, and he's walked with me along the way and helped me bring in a team of investment people and lawyers. And so we've been able to set up a structure in which we can sort of take every dollar earned and it um, lessen the amount taken from it, tax or whatever else, and then move it laterally through companies into another investment and have it grow in that. Um,
Right, right. Yeah. So
yeah.
it sounds like it's been really important for you to look at, okay, if you're busy working, if you have a high income, to actually plan for the future and maybe put aside some of that active income and invest it into other areas for the future.
Yeah, a big goal of mine is security and financial freedom. So I don't need to spend I like my lifestyle as it is. I don't need to keep having lifestyle creep and increase it. I want to
Right.
keep my lifestyle as it is, and then just everything above that, invest that into some sort of security online where I can incur passive income, so that I'm 44 now. When I'm 50, ideally, I work is completely optional, and I can incur passive income to keep my lifestyle what it is and consider a sale.
Right. As we're wrapping up our interview, what kind of exciting plans do you have in the works in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a dreamer, so I always have a lot on the go. So our corporate arm, as I mentioned, we work with companies because companies, use ergonomic chairs and hard hats, and but they don't always take care of people's mental health. They don't always think of it, and
Mm,
typically the approach is to use an EAP. But the backside of an EAP is that they have incredibly low utilization for mental health because they're difficult to access. They're almost always online, and then the practitioners usually make about 30% of the hourly that they would make elsewhere. So
mhm.
so we have an arm in which we go into corporations that are high strain, high stress, and we help by putting a person down the hall in the room
Oh,
once a week to several days a week,
mhm.
and then so that if you are a lawyer and you're working 60-hour weeks, someone's there to help you talk about the fact that this is stressful, or that you just had a fight with your wife about it, or whatever it is. And we do that in off-site work camps as well for oil and gas and mining. So I'm excited about furthering those possibilities. We've
Mhm.
got some irons in that fire. I'm excited about the thing I mentioned, which is helping sort of train new but semi-established clinicians on how to grow their practice.
Yeah.
We're sort of expanding our reach and hopefully expanding to a second location in South Calgary in the next year. Um, yeah, I think, and then just helping our clinic continue to grow. Those are the sort of four different goals I have in the next 6 to 12 months.
Nice. Daniel, that wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights and tips with us. It was a real pleasure to have you on the show. And Daniel, if people want to connect with you, what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, people can find me on LinkedIn under Daniel McMillan, or they're welcome to just visit the website at assuredpsychology.com. You can email me at daniel@assuredpsychology.com. Um, yeah, and we're also under any of the socials as Assured Psychology. So yeah, any of those ways should work.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at truenorthsuccessshow.com/guest. We'd love to hear from you.